Okay, so let's talk about something. When I say the words church membership, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it just, having your name on a list somewhere, or maybe just showing up on the weekend? Well, we're going to dive into a much deeper, more active idea, what it means to be a steward of our membership.
All right, so right off the bat, let's completely reframe how we think about this. On one hand, you've got the idea of membership as just attendance. It's a passive act, you're just physically there. But on the other side, there's this incredibly dynamic concept, covenant participation. And that changes everything. This isn't about being a spectator in the stands, it's about being an active, committed partner in a sacred agreement.
If we want a model for what this kind of active participation really looks like, we just have to look back to the very first church. The book of Acts doesn't describe them as attendees or members on a roll. No way. It uses a single, powerful word to capture their very essence. They were devoted. That right there, that's the heart of what we're talking about today.
And what's so cool is that this devotion wasn't some vague, fuzzy feeling. Not at all. It was super focused, totally intentional. I mean, look at this. They were devoted to the apostles' teaching, to solid doctrine. They were devoted to fellowship, meaning they were devoted to each other. They were devoted to the breaking of bread and to prayer. These four things weren't just suggestions. They were the absolute foundation of their community life.
Okay, so this is where it all clicks together, right? This idea of devotion connects directly to our main topic. Stewardship is basically the natural outcome of being devoted. It's the active responsibility you take on when you're truly all in with a community. It's the so what of being devoted. It's putting that commitment into real, tangible action.
So why? What's the ultimate purpose behind all this stewardship stuff? Well, you can pretty much sum it up in this beautiful and simple phrase: we are saved to shine, and we are called to bless. And listen, that's not just some nice poetic language. This gets right to the very core of who we are and what our mission is within the church.
Let's unpack that a little bit. Saved to shine. That's all about our identity. It's this incredible truth that we are part of something so much bigger than ourselves. We actually belong to the body of Christ. But, and this is huge, it doesn't stop there. Called to bless, that's our function within that body. We're not just passive parts. We are active contributors to its overall health and vitality. And wow, this statement really hammers home why our contribution is so critical. The church isn't just a social club or some gathering place. It is God's chosen instrument, his appointed agency for the salvation of humanity. When you see the church through that lens, the weight and the absolute privilege of membership become crystal clear. So we've laid out the why, that big, profound reason for active membership. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get practical. What does it actually look like to be an active steward in the day-to-day life of the church? So, here we go, 4 pillars of what practical stewardship looks like. It starts with the basics, faithful attendance. I mean, you gotta be there. That's the foundation. From there, it moves to active involvement, which means using your unique gifts for the good of the community. Then there's financial support, providing the resources for the mission. And finally, and oh man, this is so crucial, biblical conflict resolution. This is all about actively protecting the health of the church by refusing to let disagreements fester and weaken the community from within. So here's the deal, and it's really simple. Our actions either build the body up or they tear it down. On one side, you have the actions that unite, consciously praying for our leaders and actively protecting the unity of the church. On the other, you have the actions we must refuse to engage in, things like gossip and anything that causes division. Every single member makes a choice about which side they're contributing to. Now, let's just be honest for a second. The church is imperfect. Why? Because it's made up of people like you and me. We're redeemed, but still flawed. But that imperfection doesn't disqualify it. Not even close. It is still God's chosen instrument. Our call as stewards is to work within that imperfection to help it better reflect God's ideal. All right, we've covered a ton of ground here, haven't we? Moving from theology all the way to practice. But now, it's time to make this personal. This final part is all about moving from just receiving information to engaging in some real personal reflection. So let's take these ideas home. The first question we have to ask ourselves honestly is this: am I strengthening the body? Because the flip side of that coin is just as real. Are my actions, or maybe even my inaction, somehow weakening it? You see, there really is no neutral ground here. Let's put it another way. When I look at my role in the church, in this community, Am I serving? Or am I simply spectating? Am I treating church like it's a show to be consumed? Or like a family I'm called to help build? That choice, right there, between being a server and a spectator, really defines our stewardship. So, this is the challenge to move from just being on the list to being part of the lifeblood. Your membership isn't a passive status, it's an active stewardship. It's a sacred trust. The question isn't if you'll have an impact, but what kind. So, steward your membership, be devoted, shine, and bless.